and welcome back to What a Story. Today's guest is a friend of mine, again, another friend from back west.
Hey, my name's Keith Nahanee. I run Bubba's Comedy and Res Comedy. I'm in North Vancouver, British Columbia. Met DJ. I know him as DJ. I don't know what they call you out there,
DJ.
but he actually supported me a lot at Kipriaki's restaurant. Right, yeah. But we had a lot of fun at that restaurant. It was
Yeah.
we were on the lounge side, which held 30 people comfortably, 35 people. And then by end of the second year, going into the third year, we had to move to the restaurant side because it was just getting bigger and bigger.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Keith, you're going to share a story with us. Share your story.
So I've always been a goofball. Friends been saying you should go do open mic, you should go do open mic. And it was basically just roasting each other. I didn't actually have my own jokes in that. And 2014, Squamish Nation, population of about 4,500. We had from January to September, we had 41 deaths just from January to September. So my wife and I started talking about producing. So we produced one show to bring comedy onto the reserve, and there was about 90 people that came. That was November 11th, 2014. People were saying, hey, do another one, do another one. So the following year, May, like 8 months later, we did another one. I wasn't on the first show. I just produced it. My wife did the concession, made sure all the comics were there and everything. May came, the MC couldn't do it. So my wife said, hey, you're going up. You take it on. This is what you wanted to do. So actually, last night was my 10 year of that exact show. So my wife pushed me up there and said, this is what you want. You need to get up there. And I called it dirty work too. Just because that's the best dirty work you want to do is make people laugh, dirty jokes. And then that following November, I was came across Chuck Cease and Dustin Hollings. They were doing band council and on the island, and I bumped into them, watched the show, and they said, "Hey, are you staying for the second show?" I said, "Well, there's nothing else to do in Duncan. Everything closed at 5 o'clock." So I said, "Yeah, I'll stay." They said, "Okay, you got the first 10 minutes." I'm like, "What?" Okay, so I started from there. The next night, went to Victoria. They invited me to follow them. 2 nights after that, Brian Major asked me to be on his show in Vancouver, and then it just blew up, and it just kept going. And Kipriaki's restaurant, Dave. I know Dave through a mutual friend, and I said, "Hey, can I use your lounge to do comedy?" He goes, "Oh, I thought you just meant you and a couple buddies. I didn't know it was going to be filling up like this." So the lounge was getting busy, and it was crazy. And sometimes he'd feed the comics too, and it was great. um so we just kept going from there. And then um Rawsome Comedy, gave me I call an audition. I got to do one show. She wanted to see how I did, and then boom, she started having me on her shows, and I hosted there. And then I met John Gagnon, and he gave me a lot of advice. And um, Lark Miller helped me out a lot. And then I ended up on Winnipeg Comedy Festival and hosted Great Outdoors, where I got to host Russell Peters, and went up to Alaska to do a show. And it just kept going on and on. And I was like, what the hell? And like I said, last night was my 10 year. Then I get a call from Margin Films in Los Angeles saying, hey, I'm doing a comedy show series up in Vancouver, filming 8 episodes. I came across your video. I like it. Do you want to be on? I'm like, holy shit. Oh, again. And I'm like, I'm having my own TV special. You know, it's running on Tubi right now. And then from there, he wanted to pair up to do res comedy. So we worked for 2 years trying to find funding in that. And um, almost a year ago, next month will be a year ago when we filmed the first all indigenous comedy feature film, and we brought in Janelle Niles. I met Janelle through you. You know, you and I did a podcast, and you and said, "Hey, do you mind if this other indigenous?" And we hit it off right away. And she's a great girl. You know, she really supports a lot of indigenous comedians and gets them opportunities. And it's just, you know, people saying, "Oh, are you going to quit your job and do this full time?" I wish I could, but I've done some traveling and it's really tiring. You know, I'm 53 years old and trying to travel here and there. And, you know, I was just in Toronto a couple of weeks ago and doing a vacation slash comedy shows slash Metallica shows slash, you know, everything. And man, I got home and I almost had to take another week off because I was so sore. It was just crazy. I mean, I've met a lot of good people. I've a lot of met a lot of people that have passion for comedy, and you could tell who's got passion and who doesn't. You could tell who's out there supporting each other. And when I look at it, I always bring up your name. I always bring up James Hammond's name. You know, that started me out.
Thank you.
It was just, oh, and you know, right out here, I actually started Granny's Corner. This will be our 8th summer. And it was about the second or third year into comedy. I wasn't getting any gigs. And Granny is my wife. That's her nickname since she was, I think, like 11 years old, because she was so much into her culture and she was doing what all the older women do in her culture. So the elders, like, you're a little granny. She's so smart in her culture, so well respected. And so I wanted to name the show in our backyard after her, you know, of all the support that she's given me. So we've been running Granny's Corner out in the backyard here, and it's the 8th summer. And I was doing it because I wanted to put my own shows on, to get some more stage time practice. And then people start hearing about it, and it's crazy. Everyone's, you know, wants to be on this. We don't charge. It's a community show, but my wife makes her homemade chili and bannock, and the comics just love it. They all want to be on it. And one time we had like 13 comics and went like 3.5 hours long. And sometimes we have 4 or 5 people. Sometimes we got 50 people in our backyard, and it's just super fun. It's
Cool.
really cool.
Cool. And that was an interesting story on how you got into comedy, and you dropped a lot of names, which is cool. Always good to promote fellow comedians and fellow support others. So, if people want to find you, where would they find you on social media?
On Facebook, it's Bubba's Comedy Show page, but on Instagram, it's just Bubba's underscore comedy. Oh,
That was a cool story. Thank you for sharing. And I will obviously see you soon, not too soon, but I'll be heading back to Vancouver hopefully this winter or next summer. And
mm,
you will hang out and we'll do some jokes together.
definitely.
All right, man. I will see you later. Have a
Thanks a
good
lot, man.
one.
You
Thanks.
too.